And welcome to a very special edition of Eyes on Pawtucket, a show that was, if you will, born of controversy surrounding community reporting, community policing, done by a task force working with the city of Pawtucket on some troubling issues in the relationship between the police community and the government of Pawtucket. That has since turned into a multi-week effort where we've started by doing a deep dive into a report issued by the CPU4C, a community organization. And then as incidents, situations, and as so often has the news evolved, the situations surrounding the city of Pawtucket and their police department have exploded. Literally, in a hail of gunfire this past week involving a young man and a police officer who, by all consideration, has been involved in issues. Officer Dolan is a Pawtucket Police Department. He is currently on paid leave. The situations we're going to talk about tonight are going to be backed up by documentation and video at coalitionradionetwork.com. It's a highlighted piece. Some of the documentation is not of the physical clarity so that it will appear cogent on screen. And as such, they will be printed in their entirety on that post. So, we're recording this Friday evening for publication on Saturday. If, in fact, the situation continues to evolve, we will make edits to the show, per se, in the form of addendums to the programming. This is a highly fluid, highly toxic situation. Joining me on the show, and it's really their show, I'm just sort of acting as the air traffic controller for tonight because we are going to interpose video and or text and or screenshots of the website so as to make it at least accessible, the type of information we're talking about. But joining me tonight is the cast and crew, if you will, of Eyes on Pawtucket. Christine Bento, Lynn Farinelli, and, of course, Dimitri Lissakatos. Christine Bento is a community activist in Pawtucket. Ms. Farinelli and Mr. Lissakatos are actively involved with the Rhode Island Accountability Project. They are the founders, an organization that is dedicated towards maintaining a database, if you will, of internal affairs reports from police departments all around the state of Rhode Island with the intended goal to provide clarity, provide history, and provide a resource to Rhode Islanders as well as the criminal justice community so that folks understand facts. And that's ultimately what this show is all about. We're going to do our best to present facts tonight relating to Officer Dolan and a troubled history where we can prove that warnings were issued about the volatility of Officer Dolan. These warnings apparently were ignored, as has so often been the case in communications between the city of Pawtucket and its residents. So, it's going to be a fluid conversation. It's really meant more of as a roundtable. I'm going to step back a little bit because I've got three subject matter experts here on the show. Lynn, why don't we start, if you will, with just sort of a basic recap, because clearly we're not on the inside of law enforcement community. There are facts, I'm sure, that are well known internally that have yet to be released, if in fact, based on the history of the Pawtucket Police Department, they are ever released. So, Lynn, can you give us just sort of a basic recounting of what happened this week with Officer Dolan and a young man?
Sure. So on Thursday morning at 6 o'clock, my phone started blowing up. I was getting text message after text message. I went on Facebook. I was getting messages. And everybody was telling me that an off-duty Pawtucket police officer had shot someone. So, we were waiting for news. We started, really taking a good look at the news on on Facebook as well as on the TV, and we discovered that yes, indeed, a Pawtucket police officer had shot someone. The news report stated, and they showed a video of a black Audi, I believe it's an Audi, pulling into a pizza place, which is Wicked Good Pizza or something. And you see a white truck come very aggressively towards this, comes into the parking lot towards the car. The man jumps out, which is at that time, we didn't know what officer it was. He jumps out and he's got a gun and he goes running towards this car. We believe that maybe there was a badge in one hand, but at this time, the car is backing out because obviously they're scared and they don't, the car is not, the truck is not marked as a police vehicle. The man is not dressed in a police uniform, and they just see that the kids just see this guy running towards them. So you see them back out, and then you see them come out, get out of the view of the camera. From that point, from what we're understanding and from what the news is telling us, Officer Dolan, which we didn't know right away who it was, and we were trying to speculate on who it was. We weren't sure. And then it did come out that it was Officer Dolan. He went running after the car, jumped on the hood of the car, somehow got to the other side of the car, shot the driver, and it hit him in the elbow. You then see the police officer, Dolan, come back to his truck to get in his truck and take off. Now he's taking off and he's behind now the kids that are driving away. The kid, I guess, pulled over because he was bleeding so bad from his elbow. He pulled off to the side of the road. Dolan pulled up behind him, got out of his truck, lit a cigarette, and did not offer any aid to this child. And I'm saying child, my husband gets mad at me. He's 18 years old. So on the news tonight, we did see that, the kid there was no weapons. There were no drugs. There was nothing, nothing going on. These kids were really just going to this pizza place to pick up a pizza so that they could go and watch a game. So that's what I know from watching the news and seeing, posts from different media outlets on Facebook or whatever. So that's where we're at with that. They did release his name as Daniel Dolan.
Right. Now, explain for folks who may not have watched this show or aware of your work, if you could all take just a brief moment and explain what your involvement in terms of being a community activist and law enforcement has been over the last several years. Lynn, why don't you go first?
I'm only an activist because of Christine Bento. So Christine can tell you how we are involved with the community.
Christine?
So I've been involved with the community, obviously, since I was a child. I was born in Pawtucket. So over the years, I've been yelling and screaming about different things happening in the community. And wasn't until I started going to like a lot of the council meetings. And I think at first I had saw Mitri there. And we're kind of on the same page for a long time. Then eventually, when the whole thing happened with Dominic Silver, which is our George Floyd in Pawtucket. So I had met Lynn and didn't realize how much that was going to become a thing years later. Lynn took really big interest in the Dominic case. And if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have gotten as far with it, as a matter of fact. Over the years, I've met different people like yourself, Pat, and we've all helped amplify each other's voices, which has been needed. No matter how loud we've been yelling, though, it just seems like we're still getting ignored. I'm hoping that this last incident or latest incident by Officer Dolan, it's not the first, it's not the second, it's not the third, we've been yelling and screaming about Officer Dolan for years. I've actually been meeting with the chief and the mayor, along with the CU4PC team, since last March. Which Dimitri and Lynn have been a part of that. They've just been kind of behind the scenes with the Rhode Island accountability. So when we do represent things as CU4PC, they're providing us with the receipts and the paperwork. So we're all a team. One big team came together somehow and to try to get this city to listen to somebody. It still doesn't work though. I mean, you still got the mayor acting a fool. It starts from the top. I've said it plenty of times. When the mayor of a city operates like the mafia, then you get the police department operating like the mafia, operating for him. So when he has the audacity to tell community leaders all week this since this latest incident happened, his answer is stay safe, which means he knows he has lunatics on his police department, and he's warning anybody who's paying attention, be careful, you could be next. That's his message. He's sarcastic enough for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say Lynn has gotten very, very involved when it comes to helping with filing reports against the police. And I thank God for Lynn and Dimitri, because they take the fear out of the process, because they actually walk people through it. I myself have had them by my side as I've gone through some things with the city. Unfortunately, it's made us all a huge target. We are retaliated against left and right. People ask us all the time, why do you do what you do? We've already been a target for years. We've actually gotten a little bit used to it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't ever become easier, but things like what just happened this past week, you know, last 48 hours, where Officer Dolan goes out and acts a fool off duty, helps prove our case as to what he's been doing on duty to the people in our community. And it also helps prove why Lynn and Dimitri are fighting so hard to find out where the Pawtucket police officers are coming from. They don't live in our neighborhoods, but they come here to terrorize us.
Dimitri, can you fill folks in as to the mission of the Rhode Island Accountability Project, what you do, why you do it, and how long you've been doing it for?
Sure. Just to give a little bit of background, when you said something about, what got us into this and this activism, and for me, it was a personal situation, some interactions I had with Pawtucket Police, where, as a civil libertarian type, I was very upset that at how they handled a gun incident and a traffic stop that I was involved in. And that led me to try to pursue some remedy through internal affairs. I put a complaint in. I was told it was unfounded. I attempted to get a copy of the police report, and I could not get it because there was a privacy issue according to the way the Public Records Act interpreted an individual looking for his own report. So I got online, and I was bitching and moaning on Facebook, and I happened to come across Mrs. Farinelli on Facebook doing much of the same thing, and we started to chat, and we became friends, and we started to work together because we had common problems with the city of Pawtucket and with everything that was going on. And then we met Christine, who had common problems. So, and you need to help each other in these, to get anywhere in this form of activism. Even if you don't agree on everything, you have to help each other and try to help each other solve the problems that you can't agree on. And that's what we've been doing. I mean, that's where we're at now. As far as the Rhode Island Accountability Project goes, after I was denied my internal affairs report, me and Lynn decided to look for other avenues of gathering this information. And we discovered some case law that other groups had been doing, but that hadn't been active in quite a while. Back in the 80s, there were groups getting batches of internal affairs reports. One was DARE, and one was a Brown University group. So we started asking for the files in larger batches, and we discovered that it was public information once it was asked for and redacted in larger batches. So we decided that we wanted to form a database that would, whose goal was to try to put the internal affairs reports of every city and town in the state of Rhode Island online, a searchable database, so that residents of the state could look up their city or town, or any city or town if they wanted to look them up, and see how the complaints were handled. Look at how the investigations were done and decide for themselves whether they feel that these departments were handling things properly. In the process of starting this database, we discovered that there was a huge blowback. Law enforcement really did not take too kindly to these reports being published online in the database, and there was a huge amount of blowback. We had numerous denials on, spurious arguments, legal arguments by cities and towns. And the ACLU ended up picking up some of our cases and has helped us out quite a bit. Steve Brown, great guy. He's without him, I don't think, the Rhode Island Accountability Project would still be in business today. Mm-hmm. And we've had some victories recently. We still have some work to do as far as some case law that needs to be revisited and we believe needs to be modified. But other than that, the Rhode Island Accountability Project is in business now, and we are trying to help the residents of this state get a view on how their cities and towns handle their complaints.
Excellent. And the reason why we're having this initial conversation is because we want to set the stage. We want folks to understand that this is the culmination of years of work, brought us to a point just a few short weeks ago where we were able as a panel to discuss in depth the Dominique Soley case, which was a horror of its own, and establish here that this is based on an organization and volunteer efforts which merely seeks truth. The words transparency are some of the most abused words, if you will, in the English language over the last year or so. Usually every year, one of these Webster dictionary types takes words that were just beaten to death and tries to remove them from the English language. Transparency last year should have been it, because despite every politician in Rhode Island claiming to want to work hard towards total transparency, I would rather use the word opaque. And that's us trying to be polite tonight. So with that in perspective, we've got the curious case of Officer Dolan. And Officer Dolan has issues, if you will, right now, and they're serious. But this is not the first time that Officer Dolan has had encounters, if you will, with the public, with folks he is charged with policing. And Lynn, if I can go back to you now for a moment, perhaps you can give us a background of just generalities and, testify, if you will, to the warnings in writing via the miracle of email that you've sent to a variety of folks in and around Pawtucket civil life, and what reaction you were met with.
Absolutely. So back in 2019, I was contacted by another community leader, and that person was concerned about a situation that happened with this Michael Marrera. And I actually got a chance to speak with him. He sent me a video that was very disturbing. I actually asked for the police report so I could match it up to see what was, said in the police report, versus what was in the video. And, your viewers will be able to see that video. And it's very disturbing. So I think that, you should be aware. And so I had contacted Internal Affairs, and I had also contacted Tina Gonzalez, the chief of police. And at that time, I let her know, and Sean Driscoll from IA, that I was very concerned about this video that I had just watched and the arrest of this person, and because of the circumstances. So it was met with, of course, no reply to me. So I went in front of the council and I told them, as I was shaking with the police report in my hand, I told them that we needed something done. This police report, the police officer admits to striking with a closed fist to Michael's face 3 to 5 times. Now you see in the video, and you'll see how upset everybody is. In the video, you'll also see that there's a woman there that, says that, Officer Dolan grabbed her. And you kind of, if you pay attention, you'll actually see that little interaction there that you can imagine, what happened there. And so that day at the council, the council sits there and they all look at you because it's during public input, and they can't say anything. But you hope deep in your heart that they're listening and they're paying attention, because I'm speaking about the community. I'm concerned about the community. So nothing happened. Then I believe, I'm not sure if the accreditation came next. I had reached out to the accreditation, the Rhode Island police officers accreditation. And I let them know about some of the concerns that I had, and how when they go down there, the phone line that they publish doesn't work. And Dimitri can vouch for that. You're supposed to be able to call in with any concerns that you have so that you can voice your concerns while they're down there, down at the Pawtucket Police Department, and they can check out some things that maybe you might be saying. Well, the phone line never works. So I had contacted RIPAC, and I told them that the year before, the phone line didn't work, and yet again, the phone line didn't work. But I wanted to make sure that they knew that this officer had an issue, and he beat this man, and he arrested him for no damn good reason. So there's another incident, and Christine will tell you about that one. And RIPAC told me that they were going to address this situation with Tina. And supposedly Tina didn't even know about this Michael situation, but she did, because I contacted her myself, and I have the emails with my concerns. And so they were going to double check, all my concerns and check everything off, and not settle anything with an accreditation until everything was settled. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the other night I didn't sleep. Last night I didn't sleep. I had to send back to RIPAC and told them that they also closed their eyes. Tina Gonzalez, and I'm going to say it here, and I don't care who knows it, she has blood on her hands. That kid could have been killed. I warned them. I went to IA. I went to the chief of police. I went to Don Grebian. I went to everyone. And you know what I got? I got crickets. And because they did nothing and they chose to ignore the situation, not only did he do this to that Mike, and you'll see the pictures, there was another situation with a girl named Emily. And now it has escalated to the fact that this man thinks that he, in his own vehicle, in plain clothes, can decide that he's going to shoot somebody, and he could have killed that kid. He was a time bomb back in 2019. I brought it to their attention. They ignored it. Tina Gonzalez needs to resign. This was a problem. It was brought to her attention. Whether she likes me or not, I don't care. When I'm bringing something from the community to the administration or the police department or whatever, they need to listen. Because when they don't listen, this is what happens. This man's gun should have been taken off of him in 2019. And now we're seeing that should have been true. Tina is going to be asked to resign. I'm going to publicize everything. I'm sure that these kids, they're horrified over, I'm sure, of what happened with them. And if he felt that he could do that in plain clothes in his own vehicle, can you only imagine what he could do to the kids in our community?
Right.
Sorry, that's all I got to say.
If
I'd
one
like
of
to chime in on this
sure, go ahead, buddy.
real quick. We don't even know. I mean, we're talking about two cases that we just happened to come across. Lynn and Christine found these two people who were complaining about Officer Dolan. And actually put complaints in. Do you know how many people have incidents with the police that never ever put a complaint in? The fact that, for me, the fact that there's two on the table right now lends me to believe that there are probably more that are unaccounted for, or that people were afraid to put a complaint in. And if anybody's watching this that had an incident with Officer Dolan, I beg of you to come in and let it be known, because this is how, it's one of the only ways we can try to get some of these guys off the street.
Right.
That's it. It's just the fact that there's two of these on the table that we know of is very worrisome to me.
Christine, we're about to play the video. Can you just give us a basic a timeline here on what happened to precipitate this type of violence?
Well, I think it goes along with a lot of some of the demands that we had made. When you watch the video, you will see that it starts off with one of our first demands to get rid of the chokehold. Officer Dolan likes to use a chokehold. They say that they only use them in life or death situation. No, he just uses them just to use it. So a lot of these the video that you're going to see and that will come out, eventually, there's quite a few videos of Officer Dolan acting a fool. Had a lot to do with many of the demands that CU4PC had put in. They got pretty much ignored. The fact that Pawtucket police officers do not like to identify themselves. So in the video, the recent video that just came out, you see him exiting his vehicle with his gun in his hand and his badge in the other, which I think is ironic because they don't like to identify themselves. All of a sudden, off duty, he wants to flash his badge. Another thing you'll see in the video that for Mikey is that you hear a female saying that Dolan tried to grab her inappropriately. So we have another video of him actually grabbing someone inappropriately. So in the video for Mikey, what you see is, I guess, is the utility workers that parked on his property, in front of his property. Somehow he was supposed to be leaving for work and couldn't leave. And he's the one who initiated assistance from the police. And apparently the police thought that he was at fault and decided to bully him around in front of his family, his children. Everyone's screaming and yelling that the police is harassing the wrong person. And you even have the utility worker telling a female to get in the house. It was an act of power tripping, which happens every day, all day by the Pawtucket Police Department. You can imagine we have 4 Dolans on the department. When you cannot get them to wear their badges, their name badges, how are we supposed to know which Dolan we're dealing with? Often when I was speaking with the police and the mayor during our meetings for the last year, I asked, sometimes I had to ask sarcastically, how would I know which Dolan I'm dealing with if I got pulled over? I would need to know if it's the one who's used to sexually assaulting females. That's not how I put it, you know. I put what body parts he specifically likes to grab onto because he is perverted. But we have a problem. When I tell the chief, you need to remove him from our neighborhoods and put him then in a different neighborhood. If you can't get rid of him, put him in a neighborhood where there's less minorities and whatever, if he can't handle himself. She said she couldn't. Apparently, it's not just a minority thing with him. It goes to one of our other demands. Test them for drug use. Mental evaluation for all the officers. We need to know which ones are insane because some of them apparently are. Everybody thinks these things are funny. They're not funny. These are serious matters here. When you have a person who can conduct himself like Dolan and all he gets is a high five from the chief and the mayor, we are not safe. So what you see in the video, I'm not sure which one you're about to play, is him showing his power and making sure that this homeowner knows who the boss is. Although the homeowner had to leave the house to go to work and he's trying to get the utility truck to move, Dolan not only initiates a chokehold and then beats him up, has the audacity to write in the police report that he punched him closed fist several times. Who read this police report and let that be okay? Who co-signed that? You know, Driscoll, Eyez. What, are you kidding me? He's part of the problem. Then you have a Dolan who's the president of the FLP now. Probably related to this Dolan? I don't know. We don't know. We don't get to know these things. So you're seeing definitely a power tripping police officer who wants to take the side of the utility worker for some reason. And then he doesn't believe that the homeowner, this minority man, could possibly be the owner of that home. So he's not even believing that he's in the right to ask that this utility truck be moved so that he can go to work and provide for his family. And he gets arrested.
And you actually see where he's telling him to stop resisting, and the man is not moving. He's not moving at all. He's not resisting at all.
Wow. So we're going to go to the video right now. It might take a moment or so to pull up. It is disturbing. The original, I should say, a higher resolution of the video can be found at coalitionradionetwork.com. It's up already. We'll be adding tonight's show to a post so that it'll be fairly comprehensive approach. So I'm going to ask John, our producer, to bring that up. Bear with us. The miracle of technology.
I'm not doing nothing. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. You need help. Hey! Hey! Get in the house now. Hey! It's okay. The power company. Get in there now. Get out.
I fucking live here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right? I fucking live here, dude.
Why's he being arrested?
With the power company.
You don't ask for permission.
Yo, I just got $100 to put my truck in the driveway.
Call the lawyer. Stop. Call the lawyer. We told you we would move. We cooperated with you. You asked me for permission to park in the truck. I told you guys no. I need to leave I asked to move.
We said we would move.
We said we would move.
Do you guys own the property?
Yes, we own the fucking
I'm
property,
the owner
man.
of the property.
Okay.
We
Now
go
you need to
some-
knock that
we go
shit
some
off.
work at this time.
Hey,
You my motherfucker alone, right? I'll beat the fucking
Elijah,
nobody.
you're under arrest. You're under arrest.
No,
This is assaulting me. You're under arrest. Don't say nothing.
Why you?
He's under arrest. He's under arrest.
Where is your badge? Where is your badge?
Get a cop here. Police brutality. Police brutality. I'm not fighting you.
You're still pointing.
I'm not fighting you.
Please, help.
Stop what, bro? Stop what? I'm not fighting.
Sir, he needs to stop.
He's going. He's going to
He needs to stop. What are you
Don't
doing?
fight. Don't fight. Don't fight.
Oh my gosh! I can't believe this motherfucker! You're not taking him!
He can get arrested for assault and violence.
Stand right there.
Don't do it. All right.
You got the kids over here. They're already bagging up everybody else. You gotta be after the kids.
I'm not arguing.
I want him bumping into your son. Get his name up. Get his name up.
You got that motherfucker right there? Putting his fucking, I want his name. I'm trying to get his fucking name.
Get his name.
You got his name?
No, get his name. Get his name.
What is your name? What is his name? What is his name? I have a right to know his name. I have a right to know his name. I have a right to know his name.
He assaulted a minor.
Daniel Goins, 118. Daniel Goins, 118. He put his hands on me. Right? He put his hands on me.
That man assaulted
Alright.
that minor. I have him on video.
Daniel Goldman, 118. You put your motherfucking hands on me. Okay? Grabbing me up. Motherfucker.
Alright, whatever. You guys want to hear about it anyway. It's on video.
Daniel
It's on
Goldman.
video.
1-1 motherfucking 8. Daniel Goldman.
On video. That's what the problem was. He said, no, you guys threw one in his driveway. It's his property. They parked in his driveway. He told him not to park in his driveway. They arrested him. They arrested him. They arrested his son.
You're fucking kidding me.
No, they made me bring my car. Told the tow truck. The tow truck jumped me $100 to get in my driveway.
What a fucking yeah, I'm in bed. I hear him. You're not supposed to do that.
I got that one right there. He pushed on his son.
And we are back. Folks, if you're just joining us, you're listening to the Coalition Radio Network, but more importantly, you're listening to Eyes on Pawtucket, a relatively new show that grew out of, if you will, community report generated by, well, for the most part, our entire panel here, as well as other community activists to comment on, make suggestions to, and the occasional demand, if you will, to fix the fractured relationship between the community of Pawtucket and, of course, the Pawtucket Police Department. Joining me on the line live, and you're probably going to see this in tape, but and it's late at night here, so I appreciate them sticking with us, is, of course, Dimitri Liskatos. He is one of the co-founders, if you will, of the Rhode Island Accountability Project. Lynn Farinelli, also a co-founder of the Rhode Island Accountability Project, and Christine Bento, a well-known, well-regarded community activist who has, well, through her entire lifetime, worked through the prism of her community in order to just, well, make Pawtucket a better place for everyone, literally everyone. Lynn, what did we just see there? As is so often the case in these sort of citizen reporting videos, it's an astonishingly tense situation. I'm amazed that, let's just say, additional levels of violence didn't arise out of that. Thank God. There was enough violence there. We got a couple of situations. First off, there's the clear assumption by utility workers and law enforcement that the gentleman in question couldn't possibly have been the homeowner. Am I making a fair assumption there?
You are making a clear assumption, and what you watched there is a complete shit show. And this is why everybody needs to videotape when you have these type of interactions. We need the body cameras. We need to keep them accountable. And unfortunately, in Pawtucket, when you try to do that, you are met with resistance, that they're not going to do anything, or dismissal to your concerns. And this is why this man has now gone and shot an 18-year-old kid in the arm. This is exactly why, because nothing was done back in 2019. And Tina Gonzalez let this continue on. That's what you saw. You saw a shit show that happens quite often in the city of Pawtucket because they're out of control. These officers are like kids on the playground with nobody monitoring them. And this is why we have the situation that we had on Wednesday night. And Tina Gonzalez needs to resign. We are going to be calling for her resignation. This blood from this child is on her hands because she refused to do anything about situations just like this. And you're going to see another video, I'm sure, or I think Christine's going to explain the next situation. And it's pretty bad, probably just as bad as this one.
To your point about these videos, is there any?
Can I chime in on that video a little bit?
What's that? But yeah, no. But I just want to one quick point. Is it fair to say that in the absence of this video and others like it and your documentation via email, that there is absolutely no chance whatsoever that the current administration would admit to this situation?
Absolutely. It's only when you have the receipts that you get anywhere. But sometimes sometimes they just ignore it just because they want to ignore it. But had they actually done something about this, again, we wouldn't be in the situation. But everybody, please, if you have an interaction and you see, a cop is pulling you over and you know that you haven't done anything wrong, and even if you did, have an expired inspection or something, get that camera rolling. Everybody's got them on their phones now. Get it rolling.
Dimitri, you had a question.
So even with the cameras rolling, Lynn, even with the cameras rolling, I'm going to say this, that doesn't make everybody comfortable, but I'm going to say it. Even with the cameras rolling, look at what these two Pawtucket residents had to go through, being charged, being arrested after being assaulted when they were in the right. In their hometown, this man on his own property, where utility workers could just decide to park in his driveway, around his driveway, block his driveway. And then because a white officer who don't live in the neighborhood decided to handle it a certain way because he could. Now, call it a stretch, call it what you want. This has been my problem for a very long time. Could this officer just be an a-hole to everyone? Sure, he can. But there's an extra twist here that I'm watching very carefully. That my minority folks here in Pawtucket have to go through all this stuff. Most of them can't afford an attorney, right? And even when they try to, they can't get the paperwork they need or the reports they need to be able to pursue a report or any type of complaint against this officer, right? They have to jump through hoops. They go through all this crap. And then the officer goes and shoots a white boy in East, West Greenwich, wherever it is. All of a sudden, now this officer's a problem. How many minorities has he done this to in my city before he went and oops, shot a white kid now? And now he's going to be in big trouble. Now the chief's going to do something about it. Now the state's going to do something about it. Now people are all offended and want something done about it. I've just been yelling and screaming since it's been the minorities getting this done to them. So I know that sometimes everybody's like, why it's got to be about color or race all the time. It doesn't always have to be about it, but it becomes about it when it gets ignored when it's a minority being treated like crap by an officer. But the minute they turn it on their own, oh, does it become a problem real fast? This kid already is lawyered up, as he should be. Right. But if he lived in Pawtucket and he was a black boy, would all this noise be happening?
Apparently not. Dimitri, you had a point you wanted to make.
Yeah, I mean, watching that video, I've had similar incidents in the city of Pawtucket. I own a home in the city of Pawtucket, and when construction's going on, it was a large lot. It's a 13,000 square foot lot that I had, and the city workers had asked me, or it wasn't city workers, it was the contractors working, if they could use my yard to park some of their equipment, and I didn't have a problem with it. Whether this is somewhat of the same incident, I'm assuming it's something related. If he allowed them to park in the yard, even if he did allow them, he can revoke that authority at any time. This is private property. And this is something that a lot of police officers, and I've had this problem in Pawtucket, they do not respect private property rights. They believe that they can go in on your property and do whatever they want, violate your private property rights, and it's unbelievable. The gun case I had a similar incident. That's what I'm seeing there. If this gentleman did allow them to park on his property, whether he did or not, and they blocked him in, whatever the case was, once he asked them to move or revokes their authority to park, his permission for them to park on the property, they should leave. Why this officer even got involved in this is beyond me.
Right.
You should have just told them, move your stuff, and that's it.
Another thing you guys always well, I always notice it, is that here's another problem with the Pawtucket police, right? Is that whatever the Dolan, I'm going to call him the Dolan, initiated, notice how, because he initiated this weird act against the homeowner, the utility workers all of a sudden thought they were in some type of authority too. They're telling the girl what to do.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Like they're cops, and they're saying, get a cop here. And then the most disturbing thing that always happens, when more cops come, they don't bother to ask what's going on. They don't even think that Dolan's in the wrong. They just start to arrest more people. They assume that
that's how it works.
It's the minorities or the people of the property that's causing the problem, and because Dolan had one up in the car, and like you like to say, Dimitri, he start, they all do this. Stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. Because when the other officers get there, the other officers assume that someone's resisting, right? So now the other officers start acting.
They're basically taught to do. They're basically taught to do that, so that if you're in a position, if you keep yelling, stop resisting, if somebody's filming or if nobody can see what's going on, people assume that the perpetrator is resisting. I mean, it's nonsense. We've seen many videos where law enforcement officers are yelling, stop resisting, and there's nothing going on. I mean, this is just.
And then you see how Dolan does what he does best, right? He always has to sneak over to the female who's claiming to be the partner of the person he's trying to torture, and he's gonna swing his hand over and touch a body part just to get a reaction. And that happened in this video. He got a reaction. She said he was filling me up, She tried to tell the other officers that he just did that. Did the other officers care? No, that's not their job to care. Protect her from little, touchy little Dolan over there. So this is what happens in our meetings with the mayor and the chief. And I can get video footage of this also. I can get documentation. I can get minutes. So it's nothing new. If the mayor's watching, if the chief is watching, you already know what I'm about to say. So don't get offended. I often said, almost every meeting I said this. If I get pulled over and they're not wearing their badges and I don't know the name, how do I know it's Officer Titty Toucher Dolan that's pulling me over? I need to know that information. Every female in the city needs to know that information. They're getting pulled over by a perverted police officer. They need to understand who's stopping them before they get out of their vehicle and get felt up. I personally would not like to get felt up by Dolan. Not interested. That's how I was wording it to them at one point, because they weren't understanding that we have a right to know who's pulling us over. If you can't get them off the streets, we have a right to know who's stopping us. I want to know that I need to get my cameras rolling, because this officer might try to fill me up, because that's what he's known for doing. I had this conversation over and over again during the whole time that we were meeting. I said it several times, and people were getting uncomfortable because the way I was saying it. Touching, he likes to touch breasts, he likes to touch titties, whatever. Hey, I'm not saying anything worse than what the president said. So when we have an officer who's out there conducting himself this way, we have a right to know who's pulling us over. All the more reason why Pawtucket Police should be wearing name badges, not 118. 118. How are we gonna know? Protect your breast, because here comes Officer Dolan over there. You know what I'm saying? People think that's funny. I've been saying it for years. I've been yelling and screaming it. And now look at what he's still doing. Why? Because he keeps getting away with it. This is the second video. He's walked over and inappropriately touched a female to get the boyfriend riled up, to see if the boyfriend's ass will get kicked a little worse, because he can't protect this female because he's under, duress, because police got him in cuffs. That's a very bold statement Dolan keeps liking to make, right? Let's show the black guy that I can feel up his black girlfriend, and he can't do nothing about it because he's being arrested, so I can just feel her up real quick. And
it almost seems like he's trying to. It almost seems like he's trying to escalate a situation instead of de-escalate, which would be the proper thing to do in these situations. Unfortunately, that was more of an escalation. And if he's doing that on purpose, which, once it's happened twice, you start to question. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes, even police officers, but when you start to hear that this touching of whatever you want to call it, has happened more than once, and you start to question what's really going on. Is he doing that to escalate a situation? Is he doing that to get a rise out of the person that he's looking to?
The Dolan is known by the community as the cop who likes to grab titties. That's what he's known for. The chief knows this. The mayor knows this.
If we have it,
other police officers know this. Why do we have to continue to put up with it if they all know it, but they can't do nothing about it?
If we have 2 videos of him doing this, how many other times without a video is he doing this? If he's doing it in the 2 videos that we have, well, actually 3, but in the videos that we have, he's doing this. How many times is he doing this on a daily basis?
Right.
How far is he going besides touching in private when there's no video going? How far is he going with it? How far is the assault going when no one can see? If this is what he's willing to do when he knows cameras are rolling, But who cares, right? Who cares? Because now he shot a white kid in East Greenwich getting pizza. Now I'll get in trouble. So I guess we're safe, maybe safer.
I'd like to take a moment to just, in order to address documentation concerns, folks in the Eyes on Pawtucket cast have provided us with both the arrest report and the call log. So I'm going to ask John to try and bring that up. By the way, this is on coalitionradionetwork.com. Given the structure of the files as presented by Mr. Milo, the solicitor, if you will, for the city of Pawtucket, in PDF files, we weren't able to bring them up on screen independently. But just to kind of give a scroll through as to what's happening here. Again, this is available for review along with what will be the video from tonight's show. You just sort of scroll through that, John. Thank you. I guess the next and the sort of, and I want to make sure I give everybody a chance. We'll go around the room to throw in whatever other related issues that they've been sitting on tonight. And by the way, as always, I want to thank everyone who's appearing tonight. It's late at night. We've spent a fair amount of time on this today. Typically, we go live to the world. We're live, but we're going to present this in unedited, by the way, replay tomorrow, because that's how we do things at the Coalition. We're not editing people's real-world reactions or their commentary. But again, the address report is blunt, and the arrest report is blunt and stunning, and deserves a read. And again, like I said, you won't be able to miss the story at coalitionradionetwork.com. I'll just put this question out there as we sort of wrap up tonight, and we may be back at you again this weekend. This is independent media exists for moments like this because it's unfettered, unvarnished, unapologetic, unrelenting, and able to respond in real-world time frames. You don't have to, spend 3 hours watching Dancing with the Stars in order to get to this. When we do a live shot, as we often do, sometimes a couple times a day, we actually stream, for the most part, where signals allow, in real time on press events and press conferences and, ribbon cuttings and all that, because there's always a story there. And people deserve to see it in real time. And then if they want to go back in time and just sort of refresh and try to, follow through on some of the questions we're bound to ask. And by the way, for the record, the Coalition Radio, we might be at a ribbon cutting. Doesn't mean we have to ask about the ribbon cutting, is it? If they're available, if they're going to be out there on the streets, we're going to ask them questions. And they might be economic, they might be foreign policy, they might be criminal justice, they might be development related. And for the record, I just want to throw out there, and I don't want to get into this tonight, but we asked again the government of the state of Rhode Island what they plan to do in Pawtucket in light of the astronomical rents and the gentrification that is bound to occur as a result of the stadium development. Kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If the stadium's successful, guess what? You get gentrification. If the stadium's not successful, you've got a albatross across the neck of the city of Pawtucket, I should say, that will be unrelenting. But let's get back to tonight's subject. Where do we go from here? Christine, why don't we start out with you, and then we'll ask Dimitri, and then we'll ask Lynn.
Well, I sent out an email approximately 3 weeks ago. You're on that, Pat. No, everyone on this panel's on that. About maybe 17 other people. I did that on purpose to show how we get ignored. We were simply just asking for one of our demands was that we get the internal reports, that internally generated reports that the chief of police suggested she couldn't give to us. She could. So I sent out an email, and I added in some members of this newly created mayor's advisory board. I figured they'd advise him that the chief needs to hand this paperwork over. I added in the liaison. It's supposed to be helping out with community interactions or community issues. So all this community stuff that the mayor has created to work better with the community. isn't working already. Shows no signs of even being able to work, because the way I look at it, when you have about 20 plus adults in the room that are supposed to be operating on a professional level, most of them with a title, some of them getting a paycheck from the city, I would expect that at least one person would reply to my email, especially the chief. She has paperwork she needs to hand over to the CU for PC. She owes us that. So I sent out this email, and now I've been updating people on the email. Yes, I'm being sarcastic. Once in a while, I'll hop on to remind everybody that nobody replied yet. The chief hasn't replied. The mayor hasn't replied to even say, guess what? You're not going to get this paperwork. No one's saying anything. So I did send out some information about this recent incident, because now this recent incident, okay, the video that you just showed, Pat, the video will be showing of another incident that happened involving Officer Dolan. Almost every single thing wrong in these videos are part of the list of demands that we made to the Pawtucket Police Department. None of them have been answered. None of them have been corrected. Everything just poof and went away. No one's paying attention. The Pawtucket Police Department is the worst one in this entire state. It's going to be an embarrassment to this entire state, because they get to do whatever they feel like doing, as you saw what this officer did off duty. And they lit a cigarette as if to say, yep, I'm not going to get busted for this because I'm the Dolan. It all wraps around the demands. You know what I'm saying? And them ignoring the email for the last few weeks, it's going to come in handy. They have no idea. It was purposely sent out in that manner. I've included certain people to see how we get ignored. When we're just trying to help, they don't want our help. They want the chaos. Pawtucket wants the chaos. When you have Lynn reaching out to the mayor, so he's not answering my email. No one's answering my email. He won't let anybody answer my email. Not even his advisory board, which is weird. So a community leader like Lynn Farinelli reaches out to him via Facebook. Then they wonder why everything goes on Facebook. She goes on Facebook Messenger and talks about what just happened the other day with the young man in Greenwich. And the words the mayor has for her, sarcastically, were, stay safe. That's a threat. Does anybody else see that? So I take that, I screenshot it, and I post about it. The mayor sees me posting about how inappropriate his smart ass reply to Lynn was. Stay safe. You didn't stay safe to the whole community through COVID. You didn't say stay safe when the girl got shot in the forehead. You didn't say stay safe when the boy got shot sitting in his car. You didn't have a press conference to tell anybody to stay safe through any of these incidents. Yet your officer acts a fool, off duty, shoots a kid in a different city. A community leader reaches out to you and says, stay safe. That's what you have to say back to them. Stay safe. After I posted about how inappropriate and embarrassing his reply was, a male community advocate reached out to him later on in the day and told him how embarrassing that his police department was being. And he once again said to this other separate advocate, stay safe. I think the mayor needs to go. The chief needs to go. Public safety director needs to go. Dolan needs to go. City solicitor needs to go. And anybody else that thinks this is okay, just leave. Step down. Make our jobs easier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time. I'm running out of time of sitting here and yelling and screaming of how crooked this whole department is, this whole city administration is. I'm still going to say over and over again, give them all a mental evaluation, including the mayor, okay? And drug test them all, including the mayor.
Wow. Who's up next?
I'll chime in real quick. I don't know where we can go from here. I mean, we don't. They ignore everything we put in front of them, so we're just basically reacting to the newest news of the day. Whatever else goes wrong, the next incident. Are we going to sit here and wait till the next incident happens so we can come here and talk about it and get ignored again? It's outrageous that they refuse to listen to the community. I mean, um, I mean, I really think the reason why they won't answer is because they've been embarrassed many times by the three of us, and the game, the way I'll say the way the city of Pawtucket works is keep as many secrets as you can, because when secrets get out, you look bad. So it's basically keep as many secrets as you can. This is the game they're playing now. It's like damage control, and unfortunately, that does nothing for the people in the community. They suffer.
But Dimitri, isn't it always the cover up that gets you? You think we all would have learned by now. The late great Vincent A. Buddy Cianci had his term. He used to say it's time to come Coco, and that meant to, it's a variation on come to Jesus meeting. That's a variation on having a sit down. Yeah, come Coco. It's going to come out, isn't it?
I agree with you. Most rational people would at a certain point come out and say, you know what, enough's enough. Let's clean up this mess. Let's rearrange the police department. Let's have a house cleaning. This department refuses to do this. They are hell bent on taking the whole ship down with them.
Astonishing. Well, Lynn, why don't you take us home? What are your final thoughts? Where do we go?
So here we are. 2 videos, 2 incidents, and then he shoots someone. Pretty telling, right?
Yeah.
Now, in a normal world, you'd say, well, how did that happen, right? But in Pawtucket, it seems like it's okay, right? So this Mike can sue the city because his charges were dropped. Now he can sue the city. This other person that we didn't get into, she's going to sue the city. I'm sure that's the next step. And now we have this kid who was shot in the arm, and the other two that were in the car that have probably, they're probably scared. I mean, they're 18. I know that that's not considered a kid, but to me, it's a kid. And how do you recover from this? I guess we just keep paying out for Dolan. Is that what we need to do? We just need to sit down and shut up. I don't know if I mentioned it. Tina needs to go tomorrow, tonight, whatever night it is. But it needs to be real soon. And Sean Driscoll needs to go. Maybe they can take the same train. I don't know, but they need to go. We are going to be demanding. Tina Gonsalves has blood on her hands because she didn't do anything. And unfortunately, it wasn't handled for these other 2 in our city, and it will be handled. And obviously it is a more severe case. He did shoot somebody when he wasn't even in his uniform and not driving a police vehicle and, all this craziness. But when do the taxpayers get a voice and say enough is enough? Now, these are the only cases that I know that have been brought against the city or going to be brought against the city because of this guy. But I'm going to guess these aren't the only ones. I'm going to guess. I don't know how I can find out. Maybe Frank Milos will take my call tomorrow. Usually he doesn't. But maybe I can call him tomorrow and see how I can word that APRA, because I really want to know how much money we have paid out and how much money we're going to pay out.
One thing too, on both of these incidents, the people involved placed complaints. Now, if Tina had, stuck to what she had said she was going to do, we would have these reports and we would be able to see the results of these complaints against Officer Dolan. As of right now, those are hidden away in a computer somewhere, and part of the
He
cover up, I
probably
would
got
say,
a
at this
high
point.
five, just like all the other lunatics get. We have several officers who are ticking time bombs, right? Who have been in trouble once, twice. I mean, I know personally of one that's done something twice and then got away with still continuing to retaliate against his victims' friends. So maybe he'll shoot somebody next and get in big trouble. Who knows? Because he got a high five. He went from being an officer to becoming a detective after he messed with a community advocate, and he retaliated. I won't mention any names yet. That'll be a topic of one of your shows soon, Pat. I can guarantee that. We have several lunatics in the Pawtucket Police Department, and you know what? It starts from the top. When you have a lunatic mayor and a lunatic public safety director and a lunatic chief, what do you think the rest of them are going to be?
Well, on that note, we are Eyes on Pawtucket, and look forward to this story continuing. We're going to go temporarily to a schedule as when information breaks, when it's available, over the next week, 2 weeks, whatever it takes, really. Again, thank you all for spending your late Friday evening, dealing with this, and bringing all this information to the table, because clearly government isn't. Folks, have a wonderful night. This will be uploaded. It's already partially uploaded to coalitionradionetwork.com. We'll put this show up there, and we'll continue to feed, as far as data and information goes, up to the website. And I believe there's talk, and we'll put this out in the next day or so, of a Facebook page coming up for the show, so that folks can have ready access to a steady stream of information as it develops within the great city of Pawtucket, regarding all sorts of issues involving the criminal justice system, and events as they dictate. So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful meeting. And if I have to say this, so Christine, sorry, but stay safe. Good night.
Thank you, Pat. I'm mad you didn't say it
Nobody
to me,
told
but
me to
thank you
stay
for knowing.
safe.